Hey y'all, I wanted to make a little video for the public on why I decided to do what I'm doing as far as being pregnant via a sperm donor. So back in when I turned 36, my birthday of when I turned 36, I'm 38 now, so 2019 or 18. Oh my god, I don't even know. Pregnancy brain. We're just gonna blame everything I don't know in this video on pregnancy brain. But when I was turning 36, every year on my birthday I go and I get like my womanly annual check or whatever, and it just so happens that that was the year that I was going to get my IUD changed, which is my birth control. I'd had 2 of those, which means I hadn't had a period in like 10 years. So yes, this video is going to be not too much information, but just the reality of it all. So I was in Baltimore at the time, and my OB was like this spunky little lady that she basically said, I mean, she like cussed at me. Like, she was like, why the fuck are you putting another one in? She's like, do you ever want to have kids? Like, I'm just curious. It's okay if you don't want to have kids. Like, I just want to, like, we need to have a discussion if you do ever want to have kids. And I was like, well, yeah, I definitely want kids. And so she said, I advise you to not do this, like to not get one. She's like, you haven't had a period in 10 years. You need to start tracking them and making sure everything's okay. And so I said, okay, like I can do that, you know, and so I started tracking. I started doing what I could. I started, I had like an app, and I had little strips to make sure I was ovulating, because there's like some women just even stop ovulating or they never ovulated. And so I got pregnant at one point during that, and I had what is called a very early miscarriage, or what some people like to call a chemical pregnancy. That was not planned, but it was welcomed, and it was very crappy on what I went through. Like, it was my first ever positive pregnancy test, and then within 3 days it was a miscarriage. And that, like, in such a short amount of time, like for something I wasn't even prepared for, turned my world upside down, and I kind of went to a dark place. Like, I realized maybe my body doesn't want to do this ever. You know, what happens, you know, I went down a real rabbit hole of negative thoughts. So anyway, after that, I started with the chemical pregnancy, or very early miscarriage. You kind of just process the miscarriage on your own. You don't have to go to a doctor or anything. My OB at the time was very, like, you know, informative, and told me like what would happen. It's very, very common. A lot of times, like, women will have this, like, if you're really late on your period and you're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden you have a really heavy period. Sometimes you had a chemical miscarriage. So it's crazy. So after that, I really started tracking, and I really started looking heavy into doing this on purpose with a donor. So fast forward through a lot of months of tracking and just making sure I was ovulating. I was becoming pretty regular, which was cool. And I was ovulating, which was like even better, because that's like hard. Like, that doesn't happen all the time, and especially as you get older. So, excuse me, I decided to do a home insemination, and this was about a year into it. So it was around May or June of 2020. So I think it was like June of 2020. So my birthday's in August. So August of 2019, I believe, is when this all started. And then in June of 2020, I decided to do a home insemination, and it didn't work. And like with like turkey baster or whatever, we'll go with that. But it's really a syringe, you know, and donor sperm. So, that was a known donor that I had picked out, and that one didn't work. And so then in July of 2020, when I was in Portland, I decided to do my first IUI. So like an IUI is an intrauterine insemination, which means you go through a doctor, you take medication. I took all these oral medications only. And then I did what is called a trigger shot. So it's like a shot you give yourself in the stomach, and it makes you ovulate, basically. And then you go right to the doctor within 36 hours, and they put the donor sperm in you. So that was in July. The end of July, I moved here within that time frame of waiting to see. It's called the 2-week wait, and you wait to see if it works. And I moved across country, and in that time, I couldn't really tell if I was pregnant or not, because that trigger shot will come up as HCG, which is the pregnancy hormone that like a woman's body produces to like get the 2 lines on the strip or whatever. So it can kind of be a false like you don't know if it's a trigger shot or if you're actually pregnant. The line kept on being light, like it never was getting darker. So when I finally went and had a blood test done, I did get pregnant, but it was what they were calling was another chemical miscarriage. So I had a few days, like 4 days where I bled, and they're like, yeah, that's you just having a miscarriage, but we want you to go get another blood test, like just in case. I went and got another blood test after that, and the HCG had risen, and they were really confused because it should have like gone to 0, but it rose. I kept on doing more and more blood tests, and every blood test it was like going up, but not enough, not like fast enough. Long story short, it ended up being an ectopic pregnancy, which is very, very dangerous. Like you can die from those. Like that's something that was scary for me. Now I was in Atlanta. I had to go find an OB really quickly. I had to get to a hospital. I ended up having a DNC, which is like where they put you under anesthesia, they go into your uterus, and they go to make sure nothing was in the uterus, because they couldn't see it. Like the HCG was rising, but not quite enough, and so they couldn't see it on an ultrasound, so they didn't really know where it was. Technically, it was a pregnancy of unknown location, which can be really dangerous because they don't know where it's at. So they went into the uterus, cleaned it out, it wasn't there. So then they got scared and I got scared, and they gave me what's called a methotrexate shot. That methotrexate was, it's basically like chemo, but in a small dose, but it can it can mess with you, but it basically aborts the baby, like whatever's in your body. It gets it out because we didn't know where it was, and it could grow and burst. I could lose whatever part of the body it was like attached to, somewhere probably down here. They think it was like in one of my tubes. So I had a really bad reaction to the methotrexate, and I ended up being admitted to the hospital for 3 days. My liver levels were out of control. If any of you know me, you'll know that my dad is going through some liver problems right now, and he's been diagnosed with liver disease, and that's very genetic, so that can go, and the doctor recommended that his kids get tested and stuff, and so it just wasn't good that my liver was going crazy. So they admitted me, and my levels just kept going up even after the methotrexate shot, even after the DNC, but they still couldn't find the baby. And I was literally 2 hours from exploratory surgery. The exploratory surgery would have basically what I would have had to sign a waiver that said, if you lose both of your tubes, you agree to this surgery and this is a possibility, because they wouldn't know where it is, and they would just have to go in there and dig around and try to find it. So I was praying and praying. I had my family, my dad was praying, and right before I was to go into surgery, they wanted to do one more blood test to see where everything was at and to compare it to after surgery. And when they came back, everything had fallen, and I was praise God. It's emotional to think about, because it was just a really emotional time, and scary. And to be honest, if anyone's dealt with infertility, to be praying that your body aborts your baby is traumatizing. And especially when you want it so bad. Because of the methotrexate, I had to wait a while. I was supposed to wait a while There's a lot of different like theories behind that, but my doctor said at least wait 1 full cycle to try again. And so I waited 1 full cycle. I did another home insemination with donor sperm, and that also ended up in another chemical pregnancy. So it was like my body could get pregnant, but my body couldn't stay pregnant. And that was just like really messing with my head, because I was like, am I ever going to be able to carry a baby? You know, and all I kept on hearing was, you know, it's your eggs are bad, you know, like you're getting older, and as soon as you hit 36 it tanks. Like, that's just what it is, you know, like, even, man, maybe you should have tried doing this earlier or whatever. And trust me, that would have been great, but that's just not how it worked out. You know, because I was waiting for the, you know, the white picket fence and the husband and the, you know, how it all looks in all the storybooks and, you know, in the Bible and like all that stuff, and it just wasn't happening. So the last ditch effort basically was to do what is called Invocell, which is like IVF. It is basically IVF, but it's like mini IVF. So IVF, you take all of these medications, you go in, they surgically remove your eggs, they put them in a petri dish, they take the sperm, and they, for me, like sometimes they don't do this, but for me it's called the ICSI, where they take the sperm and they put like a needle and they put it directly into the egg, which I posted a photo, like a video of at one point, if you scroll way down. But, so yeah, so that was, something I did, and it was like a lot. I mean, usually when people do IVF, they have a partner and their partner gives them the shots. And this was me giving myself shots like every single day, you know, and taking the medication and feeling sick, and like, just, it was a lot. It was a lot to do. And, but I kept doing it. I knew it was worth it. And so like I would drive to Alabama because it was like affordable IVF, basically. I also got a job at Starbucks to help pay for it, because they pay for a lot of that. They cover a lot of it. So, I mean, I have to pay a lot to the insurance, but like it still came out worth it for me. So I went in to have my eggs taken out. The egg retrieval is what they call it. And there were 9 eggs and 7 were mature. So 7 were allegedly good. Like, I mean, it's like, you can't look at it and say that it's genetically good. You can just look at it and say it's mature. So there were 7 that were mature. So they did the ICSI for all 7. They put 5, they put 4. So there were 9. So even the immature ones, they still like ICSI just in case. So there were 9 total, but 7 that were really good, and then 2 that were like, meh. So they took 5 of them and they put them in a lab, because I asked them to split it up. And then the other 4, there was a device, it's called Invocell. I wish I had it, but I don't. Maybe if I figure out how to put a picture of it like right here or something, I will. I don't know. It's like a device that kind of looks like a wine, or a champagne cork, kind of. They put 4 in there, and then they put that inside of me, and they put a diaphragm in there, and I carried that around inside of me for 5 days. Just like normal use, like tampon kind of thing, you know. So then 5 days later, I went back to the clinic. They took that out. Interestingly enough, because like in regular IVF, they put them all in a lab. But with Invocell, like, you carry them, so it's like, that's how they like cut down on costs too. So interestingly enough, none of the 5 that were in the lab fertilized. So just because you put the egg in there doesn't mean that sperm and that egg like start to grow. So the 4 inside the Invocell device did fertilize. 3 were behind, and 1 was beautiful, which I also posted a picture of my embryo. So on that day, they fresh transferred, like they took it out, they checked it out, and then like they gave it right back to the doctor, and the doctor just put it right inside my uterus. Like, it was just like they used a little catheter and they just put it right in there. So in a normal pregnancy, with like the blessing of just being able to like get pregnant, you know, like there's an egg, you ovulate, you release the egg, the sperm comes in and like goes up and meets the egg, and then it takes like 5 days for it to go down the tube or whatever, and then like go it, and it's like growing into an embryo, and then it sits in the uterus and implants like in the uterine wall. Well, we did all that 5-day stuff like in a device and then they put it in the uterus, but it still has to implant. A big myth about IVF is that it works all the time. Like if you say, oh, I did IVF, like, oh, you're gonna get pregnant, or oh, I'm gonna do IVF, yeah, you're gonna get pregnant. I have a friend that, like, because now I have a whole community of amazing people, but I have a friend that had 19 cycles, 19, and like she's just now pregnant with her one little embryo that could. And so IVF is not a guarantee. Like, they spend all that money and there's no guarantee that this is going to work, because it's about finding the right egg and the right sperm and making it work and hoping and praying to God. I mean, it's still in God's hands because he ultimately has control. And so this is not playing God like a lot of people would say, because it is not guaranteed at all. So luckily with me, that first embryo did connect and did implant, and it has been hell on earth, but I'm so glad I did it. And I'm really excited. I'm 21 weeks and 3 days, and I'm finally starting to feel normal. And because I've been in the hospital, like I was in the hospital for 8 days, and it's just messed up my GI system. Like, being pregnant while you're older is like, I know I'm spunky and, like everyone thinks I'm like 30 or whatever, but I'm 38 freaking years old, and I'll be 39 when I give birth, and I'll be 40 and have a 1-year-old. And I am like so excited about it. And I know it's exactly what God wants for me. And that's amazing to me. So, I know I've always been a little like non-traditional, and that's okay. That's how I am. And I have built a community and like been put in a community of amazing women, not only that deal with infertility, but also the single moms by choice, because there's a lot of women that do this, and I'm feeling a real call and draw to those women and to be a pillar, and I'm not ashamed to be one. And like, this is not a shameful process. Like, was this my plan A? No, but it's an amazing plan B, and I'm super excited about it. And one day I really do hope to become part of, like, find somebody that I love forever, and they'll love my son like they're his own. And I'm just excited about that. And so, I don't know, I just wanted to share with y'all my journey, and I will share some more points, like what it was like to pick a donor, or what it was like, what it's like to be in the community, and different stuff that you guys might want to hear about, just as people that are not in that community fully, but just have questions, like for your normal everyday people that I know. I get a lot of questions from other single moms by choice, or other people that want to be single moms by choice, or that need to pick a donor, like gay and lesbian couples that need to pick a donor, and how I went about that. I've got a lot of tips on that too. But I also want to hear from just whoever, like any questions. I'm an open book, and I'm here, and I will tell you how it is. I'll tell you how I feel. So you all know I'll do that. But anyway, this has been like almost 20 minutes. I didn't expect that, but I just wanted to tell y'all where I was at. So yeah, I'm not really here. We'll do a little belly pick. Okay. Ow, there was a little pain. He'll pop. All right. It'll start coming out. You watch me. I'll be out here 8 months and be like, bro. But all right, I love y'all.